Alrighty, hello guys, welcome to my AEC 300 semester in review. This is just a cute little final project for my seminar class here in the Architectural Engineering Technology program at the University of Southern Mississippi, and we're gonna have a good old time. This recording is a little bit different from the previous ones that I've done for this class, so hopefully that's alright. This looks a little bit different, thought I would warn you about that. But welcome. We're going to discuss the seminar class that I've taken this semester. This final project is just a third presentation in a series of presentations to kind of get us used to presenting our wonderful PowerPoints. And well, let's get started. So here's my presentation overview. I have three really big topics that we need to discuss. First, we'll do an overview of all of the assignments that we've done in this course. I choose to do this because honestly, the assignments are the most important part of any course. This is the information that the professor is choosing for us to be working on outside of class specifically. Information that we get in assignments are just pieces of information that have been specifically chosen for us to go over not just in class but outside of class for at least a second time and often for a third time on exams. So often I view the information that I learned from assignments as what I'm really supposed to be taking away from the class. So I thought I would discuss the types of assignments that we looked at, what they all were for, and how I felt about them just in the course. Another part of this assignment is to go over some key messages from the class, anything that I felt was important enough to talk about, and then future plans to use those messages just in my personal and professional life. And then I would just like to take a moment to discuss how the class went and any changes that I might like to make, basically an end of the year review, sort of like course evaluations. So here is the list of all of the assignments that we've done this semester. There were 15 total assignments, including this one that you are watching right now. This is number 15. I've just listed them in chronological order on this slide, which is important because in the next slide, I have sort of pulled them out into these three different categories that I thought that they fit into. Now, there are a couple of them that maybe don't super fit into the category that I put them in, but I didn't want to have 8 categories on the slide. That felt like a little bit too much, so I thought I would just try and keep it to 3. The simplest category that we have on here is the presentation assignments in the middle. All of these assignments are just to produce a presentation on a topic. The first one was for a documentary, and the goal of that assignment was just to get us used to presenting on anything. We were supposed to choose any documentary of at least 45 minutes and discuss what we learned from the documentary in a presentation with a key message and all of that good stuff. And this is just to get us into the groove of recording a presentation for someone to hear in this semester. This is probably my worst presentation for this semester, but I was not entirely used to the recording setup that I have here. It took me a minute to return to my roots of Twitch streaming and remember how to use OBS so that I could get this recording together, but I think by the end of it we've gotten it. The second presentation assignment was a book summary on this book called Crucial Conversations. That is a shortened title. Can I remember the whole title? Absolutely not. And I'm not going to represent on Crucial Conversations, but it was a book mostly about communication styles, how to communicate effectively. It was marketed mostly to a corporate audience, corporate vibes, so not entirely applicable to me currently right now specifically as a student, but definitely minorly helpful as I get older and eventually graduate and move into a more company-based corporate-ish world. I'm not sure how specifically translatable a lot of the information that I learned in that book is, especially because so much of the information from the book I already knew. But as an assignment with a means to force us to read the book that you wanted us to read and continue practicing our presentation skills, I didn't mind it as an assignment. And then finally, we just have this final presentation assignment. I assume that your purpose in having us perform this assignment is to make sure we actually did some noggin learning over the course of the semester, which I think is a perfectly reasonable assessment to make. So I hope you enjoy this presentation, the rest of it, as we go through it. So the first category, other than the presentations, that I'd like to talk about are the personal assignments. Now, I say personal assignments, but not all of them are as personal as the rest of them. Like, as you get lower, the cover letter and resume, in particular the elevator speech, like, these are personal assignments. They're all about me. I did them about myself, quite self-centered of me, but they're still corporate sort of assignments, which is not really the appropriate word. But, you know, they're assignments that are going to help me in my professional career. Like, I'm going to need to know how to write a cover letter, and I do need a resume so that I can go get an internship this summer. Being able to 30 seconds tell a potential employer who I am, that's kind of important just as a professional. But the rest of these assignments were much more personal. The advancement factor assignment was really just a getting to know you assignment from the professor, which is perfectly fair. He wanted to assess, who we are, where we came from, what our vibes are, and really he was asking us, like, how do you think people advance up the corporate ladder? I'm not entirely sure why he wanted us to answer that question, because we really didn't talk about it much, but here we are. Then we have the Myers-Briggs assignment. We just took the Myers-Briggs personality test, wrote a little paper on it, and then style under stress is very similar to that, except it was the personality test in the book Crucial Conversations, and the goal of those two is to understand your communication style and what happens to you when communication starts to break down, and via understanding those you can communicate better in the future, which it's kind of a noble situation. Like, I understand wanting to take these quizzes, but I also feel like I've taken them over and over and over again in previous classes. And so I feel like it was an interesting choice to have these specific assignments pulled into a 300 level course, knowing that we've already done these things before. So then on the other side, we have the industry assignments. I'm going to run through the list and tell you what they all are. Maybe you'll understand that I understand, I'm not sure. So for our delay letter, we had to draft naturally a delay letter. Honestly, I didn't know what most of these documents were. Like, I was, well, I mean, I knew what they were. Like, from reading the title, I can tell what they are. But I wasn't aware that it was, like, a series of official documents until we got to the last couple, where I was like, okay, that makes sense. I knew that those were documents. But the delay letter is a letter informing an employer, a designer, the owner of the project, whoever, that the project will be delayed. This was like a twofold project. Part of it was practicing writing the letter, but the second part of it was we were given a scenario and had to use our brains, big old noggins, to come up with viable solutions, do a little bit of critical thinking to practice those muscles, which totally cool. The ethics scenario is a scenario we were given. We had to discuss the ethics of it. This isn't necessarily an industry assignment, but it's also not necessarily any of the other assignments. I think it pertains more to the industry than to anything else. So I put it over here. But we just had to write a little paper on the ethics, like which ethical thing is going wrong, who do we need to talk to, like how does this get thrown up into the line of command. For the meeting summary, we summarized a meeting. And similarly with the report summary and analysis, we wrote a summary of a report and then analyzed the report based off of some criteria. I can't remember what the report was on specifically. It was pictures of a building. Can't remember specifically what the pictures were of in the building. But, they were describing things, changes that needed to be made to be up to code, all that good stuff. Then we have develop and submit an RFI and change order requests. These two are also relatively similar. With these, it was mostly plug and play, plug information into the into the documents and all was good. And then we had Schedule Timeline Pro. Now, this assignment was a very interesting choice to me. Now, I understand that Dr. Fuller, a professor for this online class, is from Auburn University and not from the University of Southern Mississippi, which is probably part of the reason that this has occurred. But Schedule Timeline Pro is an add-on that we can put into PowerPoint to make basically Gantt charts, scheduling, all of that good stuff. And it was really funny to me that we had this assignment, especially with this semi-free program. After a couple semesters ago, I took an entire course called Construction Planning and Scheduling, which was nothing but learning how to use Microsoft Project, which is a software specifically designed for this stuff. um, and I don't know, it was just very interesting to me that I had this like thrown in at the end assignment that was the same thing I spent a whole semester on. So this will be one of the things that we'll talk about on a later slide. We'll come back to that. So that was all of the assignments that we did. Overall, I liked these assignments. They were relatively easy. I would say that I would like for them to have been posted earlier. The especially Thursday assignments were not opened until Tuesday. So that's only 2 days of turnaround to get an assignment done. I understand that like maybe in the past that would have been reasonable, but schedules are crazy these days. and and I would appreciate having all the assignments for the week open on the same day, like ahead of Tuesday when our classes started. So I have 2 key messages for you. The first one is communication is key. I think this is the most important key message that we have. Communication is key. Without communication, everything breaks down, everything falls apart. This is like what has been drilled into our brains from the beginning of the semester. Communication is key. If you don't communicate right, everything breaks. Everything is broken. Nothing is going to work. The only way that that is not true is if you literally are a self-sustaining single-cell organism, and none of us are. So we're not going to get anywhere without our level of communication. And then the second thing I've learned in this semester is that life is paperwork. I'm never going to not be doing paperwork. I've been doing paperwork since I could pick up a pencil, man, and it's never going to go away. So I guess I better get used to it right now. So then the other part of this slide, you asked us to tell you about how we'd like to implement these lessons that we learned in our future personal and professional life. Now, you also asked why we chose these. Honestly, I feel like I learned a lot in this class, but there aren't a lot of key messages in this class separate from communication is key, life is paperwork, and even life is paperwork is mostly a joke one that I put on there for fun. Like, I could say, oh, I learned how to do this piece of paperwork, but that's a very niche, that's not a key message, that's just a niche piece of information that I've learned how to do. So really the most important thing that you've told us this entire semester is just communication is key, learn how to communicate, do it good, so that everything doesn't fail, which I think is perfectly reasonable. Like, that's what I feel like you've been trying to get us to learn. And already I have been implementing this in my personal and professional relationships. You know, I'm always seeking to communicate well, and this class has just reinforced that in me. You know, like the rest of the world also agrees with me that communication is highly important, and that's something that we need to be working on consistently. Like, I need to be able to get my message across, and I need to be able to hear other people's messages as they come right back at me. So these are just the important things that I thought I should share with you about the class. And then finally, would I change anything? Let's discuss. Let's discuss, would I change anything? We'll go back to my list of assignments here. Because I think that this is the most important factor of a class, is just the assignments that you're doing outside of class. I appreciated the lectures overall. Gonna be honest, did not watch every single one of them. Sorry about that, bro. But the ones that I did watch, I enjoyed listening to them. I put them on like 4 times speed because I have too much ADHD for my own good. But they were very insightful. I learned a lot from them. There was a lot going on. It's when I got to the assignments that I got frustrated with the class. So per my previous point, I would appreciate like more time ahead of the due date to do assignments. Like, I really appreciated that at the beginning of the semester we got all of our presentation assignments, but I feel like almost you may as well make everything available that early, or at least make everything available, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 days before the due date, not 2 days before the due date. That kind of rubs me the wrong way. You know, this isn't my only class. I have all sorts of other classes, and furthermore, this is a construction class. Like, I have a lot of other project-based assignments as well, so there's a lot going on. And then again, with the Schedule Timeline Pro assignment, I think it would be worth it to look at the other classes that students in this course might be taking, because I know that at least for the USM students, I don't know if this online course is available, like your course specifically is available from other schools, but the USM students do take a scheduling class previous often to coming into this class, focused entirely on scheduling and Gantt charts and how to use Microsoft Project. And maybe this assignment is meant to reinforce that, but we've already learned how to do it, like, and on a better software. So it might be worth it just to take a look at the other classes and choose to make the like advanced decision to focus on those things or to not touch on them. You know, like it almost seems like it was just thrown in. But yeah, thank you for coming to my presentation, and that is the end of the vibes.